Hey there guys, it's Alex the Game Boy here, and today I decided I'm going to get back into YouTubing. I've been looking here for about 3-4 years now, probably closer to 4, and I don't really upload, so I figured today I'd take a look at my Game Boy collection and see what you guys think. Okay guys, we're going to start with Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Now this was released in 1993 and was later released in DX form for the Game Boy Color in 98. The difference between them was the Game Boy Color version obviously had color, and it looks a lot nicer to play. Now this game is very cool. I really enjoyed the gameplay of it, being a big Zelda fan. Now it's based after the Oracle games, Oracle of Seasons and Oracles of Time, which are for the Game Boy that came after it, and if you guys have seen the timeline for Hyrule Historia, the Zelda book, you'll realise that the games were released in a bit of a mismatch order, and I think the idea is it's kind of aiming to add mystery to this series, I suppose. Yeah, there are 8 dungeons and 8 instruments at the end of each dungeon. Now, when you have these instruments, you can go up to the top and play the Song of the Windfish, cracking the egg, and the Windfish will escape. I haven't yet finished this game, so I can't really tell you exactly what my thoughts are on the ending, but I know that a lot of people like the ending to this game. It's definitely worth picking up, especially since you can get it so cheap. Next up is Dr. Mario. Now I absolutely love this puzzle game. It was released in 1990, 91 over here in Europe, and well, what can I say, it has nice graphics, a really great soundtrack, and when you put this into a Game Boy Color, it actually has pretty good color enhancements. Now I don't actually understand how they did that, because this game, like I said, was released in early 90s, and so the Game Boy Color came out in late 90s, early 2000s in some countries. I think it's to do with the palettes changing or something, but yeah, they really did a good job on that. I guess that was just luck on Nintendo's part. Also, the soundtrack, it's very fun and very nice. The gameplay is very addicting, and if you like games like Tetris and all the other formations of Tetris, you'll probably enjoy this game, especially as it has the Mario theme. Next up is Robot Wars. This is based off the TV series by BBC. I don't know if it was released anywhere else, or if there was a different, network that released this sort of thing over in America, but Robot Wars was effectively kids and their dads would build a robot and they'd put them in an arena of fight. Now, the idea of that is really fun, and I think this game could have been great if it was a home system game. I mean, if this got released on the Super Nintendo, or if they held off a few years and brought it on the Nintendo 64, they really could have made a great game out of this, making your own maps and all that sort of stuff would have been a lot better. However, the game in itself isn't that great, and it's not really worth picking up. However, if you're a big fan of the TV show, you might want to give it a try. Who knows, you might like it. Next up is Donkey Kong Land 2. Now, I prefer the Donkey Kong Country games, personally. I don't know, the gameplay was fun, the level design was good, and the soundtrack was pretty cool as well, but like I said, I prefer Donkey Kong Country. It's worth picking up, definitely, especially seeing as the Donkey Kong games are nice to put in your collection. This Super Mario Land. Now, I didn't actually have this game because I had a Game Boy Color, not an original Game Boy, and so I didn't really play too much of the originals, and well, to be honest, I can't say this one aged well. Yeah, I really can't. It's got, the average Mario gameplay, but they made everything far too small and far too, I don't know, it reminds me a lot of Game & Watch games if they were advanced enough to have platforms and, bigger levels and stuff. The only thing I can really say positive about this game is there's lots of content, and the soundtrack's pretty good as well. But it's definitely worth picking up if you are a collector, because Super Mario Land, you gotta have it in your collection. This next game I got today, so I haven't really had a bunch of time playing it, but it's Galaga and Galaxian. Anyone from the 80s will remember this. Great game. Galaga is my favourite. However, it doesn't have any colour when you put it in a Game Boy Color. If you play Galaxian, however, it does have colour and the sprites look a bit nicer. I don't know why that is. Like I said, I thought it was a palette thing, so I figured that the Galaga would be coloured as well, but it wasn't, so that kind of sucked. But at the same time, it's you know, it's a great game. Definitely worth picking up if you don't have a way of playing this, but there's been tons of ports, you know, there's probably another way you can get it, which probably has nicer sprites and whatnot. Pokemon Puzzle Challenge. This was released in year 2000 and 2001 for the Game Boy Color. And this is effectively just the portable Pokemon version of Tetris Attack, which was released on the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64, I think. It basically just chooses different Pokemons and stuff, and they don't really change the level much at all, I guess the difficulty. And the soundtrack was taken from Pokemon Gold and Silver, and most of the Pokemon from Gold and Silver are included in this too, because it was the latest Pokemon game at the time. You know, that's probably rigged in a lot of sales due to it being Pokemon, and Pokemon was a big hit on the Game Boy. I think possibly this was the first Pokemon game on the Game Boy Color, and so that might have made it a big hit as well. Pokemon Yellow. Well, we've all heard of it. It was the game that started it all. Well, no, it was the... You know, it came after Red and Blue, which it's effectively from the first 3 games, which are all the same. So yeah, I grew up with this game. It was really great. It has like these cutesy little animals here. Pokemon. If you've ever seen the anime, you'll understand what Pokemon is completely. If you've ever played the games, you'll understand what Pokemon is completely, because this is a great representation of the series. The battle is turn-based, like an RPG, and it includes fighting, so it's very cool and strategy. There's a lot of strategy used to beat this game. Being like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid, whatever I was, I found this very fun to, you know, adventure in an open world, collect these guys, and battle them. So, really great game. Next up is Kirby's Dream Land, another original Game Boy game, and this is the first Kirby game, I think. Now, there's a general misconception about Kirby games. They're not actually made by Nintendo, they're made by HAL Laboratory, which are a second-party software maker. Basically, that means that they stick by Nintendo. They only make games for Nintendo systems. However, they are on their own and they have no contracts with Nintendo. And if they do, they might be in secret, I don't know. But you know, at any time they could bring out a Dreamcast game if they wanted to. But yeah, Kirby's Dream Land, it's got a really nice soundtrack, great gameplay. It's a bit easy at first, but it really gets tough, and it's generally a good game. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, what can I say? Not a big fan of the Harry Potter movies. Didn't really read the books. I read the first book and it was alright. But you know, I'm not a big reader, so I didn't feel it fit to take up any more of my time by reading the rest of them. However, I got this game and it actually is really good. I really enjoyed this game. It was almost as good as the PlayStation 1 version. Although it had completely different gameplay, and it actually had like a turn-based battle system where you could use different spells and potions and whatnot, which I thought really was cool, and it's definitely worth picking this up. I'd say it's almost like a hidden gem. So yeah, definitely pick this game up if you're interested in those sorts of games. It can definitely take up a lot of time, and it's worth the gameplay for, you know, £2, whatever you'll end up spending on it. Martian Revenge by Looney Tunes. I have nothing but bad memories of this game. I didn't really play it too much. The soundtrack was awful. It's just kind of got like car journey memories. Feeling a bit sick and nauseous playing this game, so I don't know, I might go back to it, but I don't remember this being very good. Same with Pokemon Puzzle Challenge. I need to give it another go because I have heard good stuff about it since. But as a kid, I didn't really like this style of game. I like the Pokemon cards. I didn't like the game. I got confused by the tutorial and stuff like that, so I don't know, I just didn't get into this game. Like I said, I still need to get into this because apparently it is a really good game. Okay, so another Game Boy game that I picked up today, and that is Game Boy Gallery 5 games in one, and these are all remade versions of the Game & Watch games made by Nintendo. No, Nintendo didn't start making Game & Watch games, they actually began making Hanafuda cards and general playing cards. If you don't know what Hanafuda is, look it up. It's a card game popular in Japan, and it's actually kind of fun. But yeah, this is Game & Watch games gallery really. It has 5 of them included. My favourites being, let's say ball you have to juggle, and I forget the name of it, but you're like a dude and you have to, I think it's that one at the bottom left there, but basically people are walking along holes and you have to fill in the holes. But when it gets a bit hectic when there's a lot of people on screen walking across holes, and you can only fill one gap at a time, so it can get pretty tricky. And you have to be fast. Tetris, obviously a great game, originally developed by Alexei Pasitnov, I think his name was, I think that was it, from Russia. Now the soundtrack is actually really addictive and cool, and so is the gameplay, it matches it up well. Now, although this is a very simplistic designed game, it works so well, and well, I totally recommend you buying this. You know, it's such an iconic game, and I'm not going to get into detail of who made it because there was a lot of debate about that, and a debate to who was going to have the rights at the time, but I recall hearing somewhere that this Alexei guy went to Nintendo and said, if you want the Game Boy to sell and appeal to children in mass, go ahead, release it with Mario. However, if you want it to release it and interest adults and children and everybody in between, then pack it with Tetris. And they did, and of course that was another great business practice for Nintendo, as people wanted to buy Mario as well, so, you know, making hitting 2 birds with 1 stone on that one. Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Game Boy Color, and this is the one that I grew up on. I didn't grow up with Super Mario Land. Great game, so much content, great soundtrack, great gameplay. Can't really say much more about it. You really have to play this game. It's a must-have. I can't really compare it to the originals on the NES, but from what I've seen, it looks to be a great game in comparison, and it's aged wonderfully. Pokemon Gold, released in the year 2000, supposedly for the Game Boy Color, however it did come in the Game Boy original case, housing of a original Game Boy game. I really enjoyed this game. I like the soundtrack. The fact that there was 100 new Pokemon was great to me, and so much more. I just really like the gameplay and the art style of this game, and I really like Starter Pokemon as well. It's definitely worth picking up. If it was between this and Pokemon Yellow, I'd say pick up this for gameplay, playability, because I think it's really fun. However, Pokemon Yellow is so nostalgic for me. I really like the idea of it, so it's worth picking up both of them, in my opinion. What's this called? TJ Levin's Ultimate BMX. Like I said, I've had my Game Boy for like my whole life, and so this is probably one that I picked up when I was like 7 or 8. I don't know. I like skateboarding and stuff like that, so I was like, BMX game, that'd be kind of cool. It wasn't, if I recall, so don't pick this up. And we're gonna conclude with a total hidden gem, in my opinion. Don't judge me because of this, but Sabrina Spooked. Now, this was my sister's game, but it's actually a really good platformer with great level design, and it gets tricky at parts, and the soundtrack's pretty good. It's definitely worth picking this up if you just see it out. However, in comparison to other platformers out there, it might not be the greatest, but I still think it's worth picking up. So, I guess that's it, my Game Boy collection. I hope you enjoyed, and game on.